all-time favorite just movements, just all around band. It's the one band piece I can listen to over and over again and not get sick of it, is this movement right here. We're just going to start at the beginning. Thank you.
Super musical. I love just the way you generally move. It's very clear, it's very warm, and it's very engaging. I think they play really well. I want you to tell me 2 things that you like about the way she moves. Things you really like, you appreciate. And I'll give you the critique. Jessica.
It was easy to tell when the important moments were, like they were different from everything.
Yeah, she was highlighting where the big things were. Especially when you got to the big moment, your face became really engaged, and that was excellent. That was rock on when you got to that. Sydney, do you have something?
Yeah.
What?
I don't really know how to put it. Like right before we got to like that really big part, you like started going like this, and then like your eyes got big.
I probably did the puff the cheeks moment.
Yeah.
That likely happened.
No,
that's
great.
Yes,
it's really great.
Yeah.
A lot of that was great. Okay, so here's a couple of things I want you
Yeah.
to think about. Because I saw this morning, I want to make sure I bring this out to you. When you're moving legato, every now and then you add a little whip at the end of the legato. That disrupts the flow of time. It's like if I was painting on the wall and I flick the wrist and the paint is on the ceiling. It's no longer on the wall anymore. So the transition between your down and your up and your up and your down have to be more smooth. Okay, that's number one. Let's do the beginning and see if you can see, just make that as smooth.
Yeah.
And some of it is just rounding the ictus points. Just rounding the ictus points. And I would encourage you, try to not let any beat look like the subsequent beat.
Okay.
Don't let any beat look the same.
Okay.
You've got to change something, whether it's one of the 3 planes or the speed, space, and the weight, the variables. You've got to change something so it looks different.
Okay. Beginning.
I don't know. Try the beginning again. I would set up a little more firm for the horns. I mean, this is a hard enough note just to start on, You know, give them a good firm foundation to play. Good. Now tailor all that back just a little bit so it's not so big.
Halfway.
Yeah, it's really big. I mean, it's good. You over-conducted it, which is great. Just back it down.
Sure.
Smooth between beats. I got it. Figured it out. I had to see it from this angle.
Okay.
Now I got it. This is a common thing, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Your wrist moves well here, but I call this breaking the wrist. It never goes up this way to come back down.
Okay.
So you get to here, and then you're back down. And to make it more clear, you just raise the plane a little bit. So the baton is always under the horizontal plane.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to actually come down this. You see how my wrist is bending back this way on the way down? So it's really painting the wall stroke. When you try to do this, that's when you whip.
Okay.
Watch me whip.
Yeah.
I didn't do that, sorry.
I'm gonna get that film. It's gonna be
Yeah,
great.
whatever. It's not the worst thing I've ever said at one of these. So this way, right? Let the wrist come down. Good. Let's talk a little bit Laban movement. Are you familiar with Laban
Yeah.
stuff? Okay. So when you move full, and I say everything is moving, this is what we call the float gesture. So the wrist is fully active. The resistance between the beats is 0. It's like a feather floating through the air, right? There's nothing happening because the wrist is going. Now when you move a lot of the shoulder. You move more from the wrist. Do you mind if I hold my hand here?
That's fine.
Okay. Move more. Once you notice, I'm trying to stay on the vertical plane, and you pull back this way. So try to lift straight up and down.
Okay.
And the way to do that is you have to engage a little shoulder right there. Right there. Right, just to make that work. Okay, now so we're going to use the same space, and we're going to take out some of the wrist. Use the same space. Keep the wrist moving, though. Your wrist just stopped moving. Okay, let's use less space and less wrist. And one more time, less space and less wrist. You see the illusion of resistance between the beats now? Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Everything's moving. Lots of wrist. See how there's like no resistance between the beats? Okay, let's get smaller and eliminate the wrist. Smaller, eliminate more. Eliminate more. Now, this is what we call ring. Right, this is the smallest gesture here. And it's vertical. So if you want to put ring into this music, what do you have to do? You have to move horizontally. Okay? Now, the trick with this is this, my friends, is that the wrist is almost always moving up and down. We talked about this morning. The arm will create the shape or the phrase. But the wrist never stops moving. That way you don't have to push side to side. Our wrists are not really created for this motion here. This is an awkward feeling, right? Left to right. So the way we compensate for this is we keep the wrist moving and we just move the arm left to right. That way my wrist is always moving up and down. Do you see that? I'm never pushing this way when I move because this creates tension. And we don't want tension. So we want to move up and down. So I would encourage you to paint the wall at all 4 levels of those Laban gestures and then let the arm create the shape and the contour, the contrast. But the wrist is always moving up and down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different because some people do teach like push this way, right? But to me, this causes pain, right? So I found, if you just let the wrist move up and down, I can move. And every now and then you might push to the side, right? But try to get the wrist move more up and down and keep it smooth.
Okay.
Okay, let's try the beginning again. So use different amounts of wrist hinge to add or take out resistance.
Okay.
Good. Do you guys see how her wrist never goes this way?
Literally, this has been something that I have struggled with for like 4 years.
Do you
and
know how to fix it?
That was like
Do 1,000 of these a day.
No, like that really did just help me. So
Yeah,
thank you.
good. I mean, because this
Yeah.
motion right here is the one you've got to get your wrist activated, and this is the only way to do it. Like 1,000 of these a day. because that way your wrist is comfortable moving this direction. It's comfortable down here because this requires no strength to do this. Up here, you get the feeling of tension, right? Right in here. And that's what feels weird, right? Let's see if we can do this all float. Okay, I'm going to do it. Here we go, beginning. And I'm going to do all float. It's going to look super silly. Here we go. So this doesn't fit this music, right? But I'm going to stay really big. Now I'm going to change it. Now it's right. You see what I'm saying? So let's do this all float for a second and get that moving, which doesn't match the character. And they're all like, whoa, that looks really weird.
Yeah.
But then when you decrease the wrist and it looks like there's more resistance between the beats, then it starts to work. So it's more like you're ringing the sound. Okay, start with it all float. Make it really, really big, like floppy big.
Floppy big.
More floppy. Think about the wrist going down. Smooth it out. Smooth as you can. Good. Now that feels totally weird.
Yeah.
But you'll use that actually later when you get to 10.
Yeah.
Ba-dee-da-da, and then that works. So do the beginning, but I really want you to think about letting the wrist, and I call this again breaking the wrist on the way down. Okay? All right, let's try it again.
Okay.
Breathe.
Sorry. I was thinking about that moment at 10.
Yeah. No, I know. Make sure the wrist moves up and down. The arm will move left to right. You just keep the wrist moving straight up and down. Pull. Good. Yeah, so just think about that. Like move this side to side, let the wrist just go up and down. That'll keep that really smooth.
Yeah.
And Snow mentioned this to you morning because I was telling him, I was like, every now and then you do a little loop-de-loop.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a release, an inadvertent habitual release that you just need to eliminate. Right? Keep everything going. Remember, you can replace one in this tune, you can remove one, you can put one in a different place, you know, but every now and then you've got to show where the downbeat is. But other than that, you can shape things any way you want to go. Right? As long as the wrist is moving correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey everybody, I'm Alex Weinsler.